rabbit. Let go. Get ready, here rabbit come. 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 It doesn't matter what you're going through. Leave your problems around the table. Real talk with real people. I've been that put around. Get ready, here rabbit come. Get ready, here rabbit come. Get ready, here rabbit come. Get ready,
Hop, hop. Now, in that order.
Okay, this is my very first live show, and thank you guys for coming out to Around the Table with the Rabbit. Real talk for real people just like you and I. Now, people, I must tell y'all, this has been a journey for me, a long journey, but in the midst of my perseverance, God has been great. He has been faithful. He has been good. And all my wrong thoughts, ups and downs, He still has been faithful to me. I want to let y'all know that faith without work is what? In that order. So you got to put the work in. If you want it bad enough, you got to show God that you want it, because every person has a gift. Jeremiah 29:11 truly states that He knows the plans for our lives. He knows we don't know it, but if we seek Him and find Him, He will show us our plan and the purpose. So guess what? Once you find your purpose, service. There are so many people out here that needs to hear what's about to be heard on this show tonight. We're here dealing with mental health, PTSD. And you know, mental health is very, very serious, right or wrong. We have so many people that are killing themselves, jumping off of bridges, even just going through the neighborhood, committing murder on young people. So we got to have a voice to speak out and let the world know that if we don't come together and put God in this thing, the world is going to truly perish, especially with our young children. We have to be a role model for them. But anyway, people, I want to thank y'all for coming out. I have my own, very own producer, Dr. Jerome Dorn from InDaHouseMedia. Can we get a hand clap? Jerome is in the house, y'all. That's right. Now, as we spoke earlier, this show is about mental health, PTSD. And tonight, I have as my very first guest, my producer, once again, Dr. Jerome Dorn. Dr. Jerome Dorn is a retired veteran. Dr. Jerome Dorn has been affiliated with all different types of law enforcement. Get this? Dr. Jerome Dorn has received the President Award. Dr. Jerome Dorn once used to be a trapper. We'll talk about that later on in the show. So everybody, welcome to Around the Table with Rabbit, Dr. Jerome Dorn of InDaHouseMedia. Welcome, Dr. Jerome. Thank you so much. Yes.
What's up, bro?
All right.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Jerome. Now, once again.
No.
Can we hear you?
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, now, welcome, Dr. Jerome, back to Around the Table with the Rabbit. And you are producing this show. Now, let me tell y'all a little brief story about how he and I met. Well, I was going through some situations trying to get produced and whatnot. A few scams came along about. Dr. Jerome and I met like about 5 years ago. And
yeah, 5 years, yeah.
And backstage.
Right.
And backstage. And he had an event going on there. And we saw each other. We kind of briefly spoke, but as the years passed by, we never talked very much to one another because he was so busy. You know, at first I thought he was just brushing me off, but I come to find out the man is a busy man, y'all. He's all around the world. I wonder whether he get his sleep, you know. But anyways, as the story goes on, you know, he finally called me a few years later and told me that he wanted me to come to an event, to the BTS Award.
Yeah, the Behind the Scene Achievement Awards, yeah.
Okay, and he called me to be a part of that, and I went. And then the next week, he told me to go to another event. I'm like, now, wait a minute now. I don't know if he's trying me to see if I'm really serious about this thing, because people will try you, you know. You can say, they will try you, and I think this man wasn't the man that would do it. I have to learn about Jerome.
Yeah.
But anyways, y'all, as the story goes on, we finally connected, collaborated, and his administrator, Glenda, she and I, we kind of met and we talked, and little did I know that Linda was in the nursing field. Little did I know that she was dealing with addictions, with people with addictions. And as we began to talk in the conversation, I told her about Jerome. And she said, well, I work for him. I said, what? She said, yes, I work for Jerome. See how that connection came about? Because all the time I didn't want Jerome to produce my show. So she told me to give him a call, and I was scared, y'all. I promise you I was scared. I was scared because this man here, he put the fear on, But anyways, I found him when I dialed the number. I said, well, here we go, Reverend. You got to put your game talk on. So he answered the phone, and make a long story short, after I went through my little series, he said, well, I've been watching you. And he had been following me on Instagram. You never know who's watching you guys, so that's why it's always good to keep a straight and narrow walk. And so he said, now what do you want me to do for you? I said, well, Doc, I've been following you now, so I've been telling folks this man got everything I need to get this show produced. So he said, okay. And then he said, now what do you want? I said, I want you to produce my show. He said, okay. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I was waiting for him to reply, but he never said anything, so he would wait for me. I said, well, Dr. Jerome, he said, okay, I don't have no problem with that. I do that. I said, well, I dream big and I think big. He said, you're supposed to, my brother. Mm-hmm. He said, you're not supposed to think no less than your worth and your value. I already knew that, but just to hear it coming from somebody else, that just only made me feel a whole lot better on my journey. So coming from a man of his prestige, I appreciated that. Yeah. And then so I said, well, I really don't have the type of money to produce. He said, I'm not worried about your money to produce the show. He said, I just want to produce this show. And Lord, I did a praise break right there in my room. Because only God can do it. And so I'm just so grateful to be a part of InDaHouseMedia and to have him to produce this show, because this show is going to go further. This is the very first show, but there's many more shows that's coming ahead, because y'all, I'm fighting for ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, The Grill, BET, Bounce, all of them got a network on that around the table to be on. I'm going forward with the help of Dr. Jerome Dorn. And so, Dr. Jerome, after all of that.
I don't like being on this side of the camera.
So what?
I don't like being on this side of the camera.
That's right, he already ready to get off the stage, y'all. You want to run behind the camera. So, Doc, I want you to tell our audience a little bit about your journey, where you started, why you started, how did you start it? Was this a dream and a vision that you had as a child, or did you wait till you get of age to have the vision to become in the media?
No, this came about sort of by coincidence. While I was in the military, I worked special ops, and we worked behind the lines. And some of the times, the areas we needed to go in, we didn't have maps. So what we would have to do is an aerial flyover. And it was my turn to go do the flyover, take the pictures. So when we were inserted, we kind of have an idea in the area. First time ever having a camera, didn't know nothing about a camera. I did what I had to do, and when the photos came back, it was like a map. Like I just had this magical connection with the camera. So ever since...
So it was already a gift that was already
It was a gift.
Okay.
It was a gift that was already, in there. So ever since that time, I went and bought me a little camera and just started taking it with me everywhere I went, So from there, after I got out of the service, I just started taking pictures around neighborhoods, people, family. I ventured into a few weddings, and later on, I had no formal training with the camera. So later on down the line, I decided, well, I'm gonna take some classes and I did that, and my work went to hell. It was like, wait a minute.
It was not going right.
It wasn't working right.
But you still had the desire to do it.
But I still had the desire to do it. I did the BET Awards, Soul Train Awards. They published 15 of my images and gave me $100. Prior to that, using film, you average a minimum $40 to $60 per photograph. It can go up as high up to $500, depending on where they put the photograph in the newspaper. So, and I'm like, $100. If I'm gonna slave for somebody, I'm gonna slave for myself.
For yourself, exactly.
And thus, InDaHouseMedia was born.
In that order.
So,
I mentioned slay the other day. A matter of fact, I was on Facebook Live the other day when I was talking about slaying.
yeah.
And I was telling people the difference in being slayed. For instance, like we say, though he slayed me, yet I still trust him. And I was trying to make the difference with that. With people, I said, we got a little saying, say, oh, you slaying. I said, but I ain't talking about that looking good slaying. I'm talking about this striving slaying. When you're going through it and you know that God is on your side. So I'm talking about that different slaying. So it's
My thought was to get on at the Atlanta Constitutional Journal as a freelance. That's all I wanted to do.
Okay.
But like I say, I'll invite myself to an event in a heartbeat. I don't care. So,
sometimes you got to just show up and show out.
yeah. So
But Doc, okay, now our main focus here tonight is your PTSD. And we have quite a few people in here that is dealing with that. Y'all will hear another amazing story.
for me, I use what I do as my therapy. More than anything else, I don't chase a dollar.
Right.
I do what I do because it's therapeutic. My first wife, she used to get mad at me for the time that I was spending in the dark room. PTSD program through the Veterans Administration, and just talking with other veterans, I began to realize what I was going through and why I was going through. We all, suffering from PTSD, I have triggers.
You have a lot of experience in law enforcement and trapping, but we want to know about your experience doing trapping part of your life.
Wow.
Because a lot of people out here don't know what trapping is.
Trapping? Yeah, well, I have some family that was kind of like on the other side of the law, and it was a hustle, For me, it was fun, and not fun in the sense of fun, but at the time, doing what I was doing and going through the things that I was going through in life, it kind of took me out of a certain mindset, It wasn't fun. It was very traumatic, as I look back on it. I think the danger side of it attracted me more, kept me there more so than anything else.
Was the danger side because you experienced a supporting military and you like to take chances?
I function very well under stress.
Okay.
Yeah, and
a lot of people can work under stress.
Right. I'm at my best under stress.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah.
So now, in the midst of that trapping, and with the experience in the law enforcement, can you tell us and give us the specifics of what you was involved in the law enforcement, if you don't mind?
Oh, okay. In the law enforcement side, I started out. I had a state police commissioner in Massachusetts. I was an instructor on the state SWAT team, and that's because of my military background that I was able to do that. I think I was the only individual that was still on a probationary period that was allowed to be on the special assignments as such. At the time I joined, when I actually went into that, I was still in the military, but I had enough leave saved up. And my last assignment, I was in 10 Special Forces at Fort Devens. So by me still being in the military, I was able to take it was a newly formed SWAT team. I was able to take them up to the military base, and they're being taught by the Special Forces soldiers. So that kind of propelled me in that area. I left the Massachusetts, and I went to the Department of Justice. I did criminal investigations, federal judge protection. At the same time, I was starting to receive disability from the military, so I kind of left the law enforcement arena for a short while. Then I became a director Director of Security with Worldwide Detective Agency, and I became Assistant Director of Scotland Yard Security. And from there, I taught the 235 certification. You know, security officers in certain states have to be certified. So I conducted the academic portion of that. So also Philadelphia Police Department with the school district division for a while.
So I see you have a lot of experience in law enforcement.
On
Right.
both sides.
On both sides, but not, I'm going to it, but not Dr. Jerome.
He trying to get me locked up, y'all.
No, I guess you know where I'm going with this question. So now, you done got all this experience in the law enforcement, you've been in the military, you're dealing with PTSD, you was a trapper, so I got one question.
Question.
Did you use the law to trap? Well, ain't nobody security guard. But did you? I'm sure everybody.
I refuse to answer on the ground I may incriminate myself.
After all, if he did, he made it, you all. He made it. He's not locked up. And one other thing before we leave, Dr. Jerome, you have a book of poetry.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't know about your poetry. Of course, I've read some, and it's very in-depth. And your poetry is dealing a lot with your experience. Am I correct?
Yes.
Tell them a little bit about your poetry and how they can find your poetry and your book.
Well, I became inspired because, you know, I used to see a lot of affirmations, old sayings, and things of that nature. And it just kind of motivated me to write. You know, I've always been a good writer, one of my best subjects in school. And it's just like, I may see a verse that's catchy, and I'll write about it.
Dr. Jerome, it was amazing to have you here. And
Yes,
I
my
just thank
pleasure.
you so much for your insight on everything. And I'm pretty sure it was enlightening to everybody out there that know about trapping, about the law enforcement, how you played the law to do what you did. But anyway, it was good. I appreciate you coming back, and look forward to working with you some more. Everybody, welcome back once again to Around the Table with Rabbit. Real talk for real people. We have some real live stories for you guys tonight. So my next guest, y'all, is Miss Vonnie Barker. Miss Vonnie Barker is a 74-year-old young lady. Miss Vonnie Barker, she was an employee at the Twin Towers. She was working on the 86th floor when the attack happened. Miss Vonnie Barker, she survived 86 floors. Now, to mind you guys, I don't care how athletic you are, how much you can run, how much stamina you got, 86 floors are a lot of floors, a lot of stairs to travel. And in between that, you feel like you want to take a break, but you're running for your life. So Miss Vonnie is a survivor of 9/11. So I would like y'all to give her a big warm welcome, Miss Vonnie Barker. Thank you, y'all. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Vonnie.
Thank you.
Your mic is right there, right beside you.
Hey.
Sorry, Robbie. Now, Miss Vonnie. Now, we are definitely not strangers with one another, right?
No, we are not.
Okay, now, we first met at
U-Haul.
U-Haul.
Where I work.
I was coming to get a truck to move my furniture.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was telling your coworkers about my podcast.
Right.
When I was doing my podcast. And because of the stories that I was telling them, they thought you would be a perfect fit
Yes.
for that show. And they introduced me to you, and you and I just automatically
Click.
just like click,
Click.
clink, clink. And so Miss Vonnie began to tell me about her story of 9/11. Listen, I had to put off my order for my truck to listen to this here, because this is a story that you don't hear often. We have heard a lot about a lot of survival stories and 911. I mean, I'm talking about the little TV show 911, but not the actual 9/11. And Miss Vonnie, she endured that and she survived that, and she's here to tell y'all her story of how she survived through the 9/11. So Miss Vonnie, the last time we was on my podcast,
Yes.
and we didn't finish the story.
Right.
And during the time of the interview, that part of the interview, we was talking about the material that and the content that you brought to the show.
Right.
To mind you, I kept saying that we smell smoke in the building.
Yes.
There was smoke literally
Still.
in the building. There was not a fire, but there was the smell of smoke in the building. Can you kind of take us back down to that journey and let them know, first of all, from the beginning, before we get into that, the beginning of your tragedy?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I was also in the first bombing attack of the World Trade Center in 1993. And I still was on the 86th floor, and I had to get down, and it took us approximately almost 3.5 hours to get down from the 86th floor. Then 9/11 came. And on the 86th floor, I was actually 2 floors away from the plane hitting the building. So it was only me and my boss in the building that morning. No one had come in as yet because it was 8:45 or something to that effect. And my boss said, I felt the building shake. The lights went out. They came back on. I was on the phone, off the phone, and I jumped under my desk. And then my boss walked over to me and he said, I think a plane hit the building. And he said, I saw the pilot's eyes. And I said, what? And at that point, we still did not know what was going on. We thought a small plane. And I believe somebody called and said, we've been hit. We still never knew what was going on.
What you was hit by?
No.
Okay.
We knew we were hit by a plane, but we thought it was a small commuter plane.
That may have been accidentally?
Exactly.
Okay.
We did not know it was a terrorist attack. We didn't know anything. So my boss from previous, we knew to get some shirts, get some water for our face. I took my heels off, I put my flats on, and we started to go to, we only had one entrance in, one entrance out, and the entrance was blocked by bricks. And there was a big hole from the plane fuselage going to the bottom. And we had to dig our way out. So that's like another half an hour in the building. We finally dig a hole through, and we go through the hole, and it was pitch black. We didn't know, was there a floor there? You couldn't see anything at all. And we went back in, and my boss suggested we call, and I called home, I called a friend, and I said, please just tell my daughter and granddaughter I love them, because I just knew I wasn't getting out this time. We finally crawled through, the smoke had dissipated, and we went into the hallway to the exit, because the elevators were blocked and certain doors were closed. I found out later, of course, no one survived the 86th floor except for my boss and myself. And going down those stairs, you are cringed with emotions when doors open over.
And all of that
and
static
other
and all
people
this.
and the static, and then there was water falling. It was wet on the floors. It was fires and we had to go into different departments, different areas. You saw people being carried down, and we just moved to the side.
But I reflect back, Miss Vonnie,
Yes.
during the previous interview on the podcast. You stated that you and your boss was locked in a building for like 3 hours, dark,
We were in the building trying to get out.
out for 3
Yes.
hours. And at one point you were telling me that, and you told my audience that you and your boss was like clenched hands.
We were like clenched hands when we got to the first floor. After, I think it was 4 hours then, we never knew the first building came down. When we finally got down to the first floor, that building came down and it caused an explosion in my building, and we were holding hands and we got blown apart. I mean, even when I got home the next day, I didn't know if my boss was alive. He didn't know
So
if I
y'all
was
did not
alive.
see each other
No.
after y'all
No.
separated.
I felt I was blown into a thing of glass. I was trying to find my shoes. My shoes were blown off, and I'm feeling around the floor, and I felt body parts.
So even as of now, with the separation of you and your boss, at this point now, you still don't know where he's at.
I don't know where he's at. I don't know where
You don't
I'm
know if he's
at.
dead or
It
alive.
is completely black at this point. I'm feeling dead bodies. I'm trying to get up, and I hear a voice, and the voice said, "If you hear my voice, come to this light." And I looked up, and God just said, "You didn't get this far to just be here." And I got up out the glass, never find my shoes, and I saw a light. And I went to the light. And there were other people going to the light. It was,
So they must have heard that same voice.
Yes.
They must have. Okay, now I remind myself that in the midst of that, and when you were trying to escape and try to get to your freedom, you said there was an interference there with somebody said, "Let them clean you up."
yes,
Let
yes.
them clean
Some
you up.
woman, people were all coming like towards this light. And this woman came and she said, "Oh my God, let me clean you. Your face is," and she was trying to clean me. And then she looked down. She said, "You don't have any shoes on. Let's wait." I said, "Nope, nope, I don't
Your
want to wait.
response, "I gotta go to this
I
light.
gotta go.
I gotta go to this light."
I gotta go." And I went to the light, and the light was to the stairs. Never saw the person. Never saw the light. Saw the stairs. And everybody just started going out the stairs. When I went out the building, there was a ambulance lodged underneath the World Trade Center. There's one, which I was in. That was the first, my building was the first building hit. The second building, which was the first building that came down. So I didn't know I was hurt or anything. I was trying to get out of there.
Right. And
I
you don't
think I
have time
was
to
in a
focus on
daze.
your injuries.
No,
because you think about
no,
life.
I want to go home. I know where the bridge was, and that's where I was trying to get to. And they saw me bleeding, and they were calling me. The ambulance people were calling me, and I was like, "Nope, nope." And I went somewhere else. Of course, later on, they were demolished because the building came down.
But, you know, even though, Ms. Vonnie, this, the 9/11 was orchestrated to kill, to take the lives of innocent people.
That's
right?
what I heard, yeah.
That's what it's orchestrated to do, because otherwise, why would somebody in their right mind would drive 2 planes through a building, taking their own lives?
Yes.
But in the midst of that, I recall you telling me in the previous interview that, you know, they said, "Don't look out the window, don't look out the window."
Yes, when we got to the first floor, because people were now jumping from the other floors.
And that's where I'm going with this.
And yes, they were jumping out the windows, and bodies were just flying out the windows. So when we got to the first floor, it's all glass, all windows, and the people were there guiding you out.
Right.
Right? And they were like, "Don't look, don't look, don't go that way, don't look, just go this way." And I mean, it's kind of hard not to
Not to,
turn.
that's actually,
Right.
when
it's
they
just-
tell you not
it
to do
just-
something, you're going to want to do.
Right.
I'm
It's
like
just-
that,
You just
know.
do it, and you looked, and then, you know, I'm seeing people all over the ground. And
But you know what's so interesting about this, Ms. Vonnie, and where I'm going with this, because it was designed to kill. People actually were taking their own lives by jumping out of the window.
the fires were so hot.
Yeah.
It was so
They was
hot.
actually trying to jump to survival, but yet taking their own life in the midst of this.
But you know what? God was all around us, because there are people who jumped out the window, but got caught on something and slid down. They
So
made
some
it.
did
They-
survive
oh, yes, some
doing
did
the
survive.
jump, yeah.
Some did survive. They somehow they slid down, and God just grabbed them, whatever it was, you know, just like He helped
It's
me
like
and my
yourself,
boss.
see, because
Yes.
somebody had to talk about it.
Yes.
Because like a lot of people out here, they don't know what happened during 9/11. I didn't know what happened during
Right.
9/11. I was in prison when 9/11 had taken place.
Right.
You know, and I didn't even know. I walked in the building, they said, Rabbi, look at the TV. And I look up, the only thing I see is smoke and debris and people running. I'm like, what's going on? And this was my birthday,
And
9/11
this is his
is my
birthday.
birthday.
This is his birthday.
And during the course of that, and so I'm like, what's going on? They said Twin Towers have been bombed. Nevertheless, not knowing that I will actually meet someone that experienced that. So, Miss Vonnie, when we was in the studio the last time, I kept saying, I smell smoke.
Yes.
I smell smoke. People, the whole entire studio smelled as though a house just recently burnt down with fresh smoke.
Yes.
Fresh smoke. That's how fumigated the studio was. And I kept saying in the midst of our interview, I said, I smell smoke. I didn't know if the studio was on fire or what. I didn't know. I only think I smelled the strong
smoke.
odor of smoke. And so Miss Vonnie, she had some material and content she had. And as she went through each and one of those, she had Time magazine.
I had the Time magazine, but the thing that was the most eerie thing was 1 year later, as the building still was smoldering and so forth, I received a call from the police department, and they said, we have something we found of yours. And I used to keep a lot of shoes, high heels and stuff under my desk. So the joke around my office was, oh, they probably found your shoes. They probably found this, that, and other thing. So I couldn't imagine what they could have found. And I went to the precinct, and the officer grabbed my hand, and he said, I just want to say God bless you for being alive. And he said, you're going to be the first person that I give something to where you're going to have a smile on your face. I couldn't imagine what it was. He gives me an envelope that had my grandbaby's pictures in it. Pictures.
After 1 year of
1 year.
Ground Zero burning for one
Burning.
year later.
And he gives me some pictures in an envelope. And I said, well, how did you find this? He said, look in the back. And so in the back of the envelope was a confidential thing from my job with my name and address on it, and that's how they found me. I was still working for Port Authority, but we were in Jersey. But when you open up that envelope, even today, and Rabbit we both forgot for me to bring it.
She supported about the content with us, y'all.
But when I opened up the envelope and I showed him what was in the envelope, you just smelled smoke. You just felt like you were right there,
And
right now.
I was about to say that you can actually feel as though you were in the. I mean, I'm getting chill bumps now. Literally, I was getting chill bumps. I'm like, how many years later this we interviewed? 20
This is
20
like
years later?
22
22 years
four,
later.
24
And this
years
interview, that was interview, and it still smelled
Smoke. From this envelope.
But you know, she was like Paul and Silas. Even though she was in the midst of the fire furnace, she didn't come out smelling like smoke.
No.
She didn't.
When I
the
got to the
content may
hospital-
have, but she didn't.
When I got to the hospital and I had no shoes on, thank you, and I had no shoes on, and I walked, and I kept trying to go to an ambulance to get a Band-Aid, because now I know I'm hurt. That's how my family found me. By the time I had got an interview on the news, and both buildings were down, I didn't know anything. I just walked. And somebody interviewed me, and they said something about, did you see dead people or something like that? And I said, oh, you want to see something? And I lift up my dress and I said, here's some blood to see. And everybody talked about that interview, which I to today never saw. But at any rate,
But
that's
you
how
probably
my
distraught
family.
at that time.
Yeah, I
of course.
was crazy. I
Of course.
ran into some people talking about they were going to the Mexican restaurant for a drink, and did I want to come? And I said, yeah, with no shoes on and all of this stuff on my face.
That's of course
I
nasty.
I didn't know anything. I was so mad at the guy later on. I was like, how could you ask me to go to a Mexican restaurant like that? But anyway, but when I got to an ambulance finally, I never did get to an ambulance because every time I went to an ambulance, I saw people with hands missing, legs missing, and stuff like that. And I just kept going to the next one. And finally, someone came and they said, "Oh my God, you're bleeding." And they grabbed me and they took me to an ambulance and they put me in the ambulance. When I got to the hospital, and they were stitching up my knee and whatnot, and they were wiping me down, they said, "You don't have any shoes on, and your feet have no cuts, no bruises, no anything."
That was the protection of that voice.
Yes. It was like walking on cotton. I never even knew I didn't have any shoes on. I didn't think about any shoes or anything. I just wanted to get to the bus to get back to Brooklyn. That's all I wanted to do. But it was absolutely amazing that's where God and people
really stepped in and showed up and showed up.
Yes, and people did not, they blamed God for it. They said, "Oh, how could you say God did this for you when God did this?" No, God saved so many people.
He didn't do it. I mean, a lot of them didn't get saved.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't.
Yeah.
Somebody got to live and somebody got to die. Somebody got to win and somebody got to lose.
Somebody got to talk about it.
Somebody got to talk about it. And he designed and saved her just for this show because people need to know. This is what you call a real miracle. A real miracle. A living, what we said a while ago, I said somebody has some testimonies.
Yes.
That is a testimony. How do you survive that and still live? And she's dealing with PTSD. So, Ms. Vonnie, after all of that, they brought about PTSD symptoms to you.
Yes, they told me I was having all kinds of dreams. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like the world was coming to an end. I didn't know how to deal with anything, any noise, loud noises, motorcycles, all of that.
Just make you tremble.
It would
At
make
least
me
little
go,
noise will give you a
it would make me
flashback
go
of that.
crazy.
Yeah.
But then, even now, the craziest thing I did on having a panic attack was drive through the U-Haul building.
Mm-hmm.
I just drove through the glass building, and I kept going, and I kept going, and people were saying, "Stop, stop, stop," and I didn't know what was going on. I just happened to look, and they said, "Stop," and I stopped, and they said, "No, stop the car," and I stopped the car. But even as up to last month, I had a terrible panic attack in U-Haul.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how did that play out with your
Yeah,
co-workers?
because it was, well.
Did they know what to do, how
yes,
to assist
because
you?
I was always told to tell wherever I work that I have
Your
post-traumatic
experience.
stress
Uh-huh.
disorder, because you don't know when it's going to come. It just happened. And I was dealing with a customer, and all of a sudden, I was just trying to get this contract. Something was coming through me, and I didn't know what it was, but it didn't feel right. And I was dealing with this customer, and I got that contract, and I just put my hand down, and I put my head down, and I grabbed myself, and he said, "What's wrong?" I mean, he could just see the whole thing. And whenever I was anywhere and it happened, people around me
He
could
saw the
see it.
tension and all of the
Yes, yes.
the traumatic
Yes.
that was going.
So in my case, my girlfriend who's with me tonight, she says she knows my triggers. So she's
Yeah.
been with me to see it.
Yeah.
I don't always know them. It just happens.
It's just like having anxiety attacks. Because I have
Definitely.
anxiety, but I don't know when they're going to come on. But I
Definitely.
can kind of feel them when they do.
And then
But
you do things and you don't know that you did things, and it just continues and continues. I wish it would go away.
And so dealing with this PTSD and anxiety, like I said, I deal with anxiety
Right.
and claustrophobia. But when these attacks come upon me, and especially when they get serious, they feel like I'm dying,
Yes.
feel like I'm feel like somebody's after me. I get scared. I mean, I get the hyperventilating, can't
Yes.
breathe, and everything
Yes.
around me just seems crazy. You don't, and at that time, you don't. If you ain't got the happy pill,
Right. Yes, you know, not the happy pill.
if you don't have the happy pill, you gonna go through that stuff.
You gonna go through it. That's
until
right.
it decides to stop on its
That's
own.
right. That's right.
Until it stops. So now, Ms. Vonnie, I mean, after all of that, you're in the spirit, and you're here now, and you're vibrant, you're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's brave and courageous, of course, if I must say, and I'm sure all of y'all can attest to that. And just to be here to tell this amazing story, how she survived that. Don't too many people survive things. I had an aneurysm that had erupted in my head 3 days before going to the hospital, but I survived.
Thank God.
I survived. And the thing about survival is because when God has purpose for you, these are the things you have to endure in life. Before you get to it, you got to go through it. There is no way. I see so many people out in the audience right now that has been through some things. We got producers out there, we got psychologists, and we got ministers, and we got doctors out here. We all have been through some type of traumatic things in our life in order to get where we are. And that way we understand other people when they're going through situations, and we know how to deal instead of being critical or judgmental. We know how to reach out and say, okay, that could have been me.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That could have been either one of us. And it was the other people that did not survive this.
Right.
But you did.
I did.
You did.
I did.
And because God's grace and mercy is sufficient. And when you got purpose, you're going to serve it.
Yes.
I don't care what you got to go to get to it, you're going to serve it. Ms. Vonnie, thank you once again.
Always.
Your story is always amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where you at? Rapping.